إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فأوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear beloved, respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are here on the doorstep of the blessed month of Ramadan, and we have a great opportunity in front of us. We should not take a hold of that great opportunity. Now, some people might expect me to give some sermon about the unfortunate events in the coup that took place in Egypt. And I had already planned for the sermon I was going to make, and I think it all is summed up in basically one ayah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ وَإِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ سُوءًا فَلَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ وَمَا لَهُم مِّن دُونِهِ مِن وَالٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared the situation and clarified to us all. How do we understand the ultimate reality of Muslims and our reality in this life and the different struggles that we go through? Indeed, God does not change the situation of a people until they change their own ways. And if it is His will to test them with calamity or hardship, then no one can stop that. And we will find no help or support except from the one that is in control of everything in the universe. This is the verse. And so there's a hadith Qudsi narrated by Ibn Kathir, and some of the ulama have also narrated it of hadith. And it says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الرب, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Gabriel has told me that the Lord has spoken. ما من أهل قرية ولا أهل بيت كانوا على ما كرهت من معصيتي, that there is no people of a village or people of a town that were living a lifestyle that was in the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثم تحولوا إلى مما كرهت عما كرهت إلى ما أحببت من طاعتي. And then they changed their way from the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to having His love and contentment upon them. So anyone who makes that change, he says, إِلَّا تَحَوَّلْتُ لَهُمْ عَمَّا يَكْرَهُونَ مِنْ عَذَابِي إِلَى مَا يُحِبُّونَ مِنْ رَحْمَتِي. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So it says that when people change from a lifestyle in which the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on them, and they decide to change themselves to a pattern of conduct and character and manners and lifestyle that He loves and is content with, then He will take them from a state of punishment and put them into a state that they definitely love, of His mercy and compassion and forgiveness. So this sermon that I have already planned today, before that happened, is all about that point. They say that Ramadan is Shahrul Sabr, That's the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-sawmu nisfu as-sabr. So they said it's shahr as-sabr. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us that this is a time for change. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us that this is a great opportunity for us to make repentance. So that is where we're at. We're at the month of change, the month of repentance, the month of patience. So brothers and sisters, it is very easy to take Ramadan as some sort of strange cultural phenomenon, because it is very strange for somebody, just because my family, we just starve ourselves for a month. That is strange. And the Prophet ﷺ said about that strange reality, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ حَظُّهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشِ. Many people fasting, all they ended up getting out of it, which is not much of a benefit, is hunger and thirst. That is not the point. That is not the point. If you went through Ramadan and your pattern of conduct, your level of worship, your knowledge of the Quran and the teachings of Islam has not changed, then you did not embrace Ramadan as the Prophet ﷺ lived it, and as his companions radiyallahu anhu ajma'in lived it. We have to make an intention right now, and it's not easy. We asked to try to raise the money for the iftar every night. And alhamdulillah, the intentions are great. I know your iman is there. You love Allah, you love His Messenger. Your intentions are great. And you want to be able to do it. And we all said, I'm going to do it. And we had 30 people. And we did not collect that. Last week I gave a whole entire sermon about the strong precedence and value of building community through the congregational prayer. And we have a musalla that's within many people's maybe 5-10 minutes of your house. And we went from Jama'ah 4 or 5 people to Jama'ah 10-12 people. I was hoping to see 30, 40 maybe. So it's easy to say, inshallah, sounds good. But motivation is to strive. This is what jihad is all about. To fight off shaitan. He will come to you. Many people don't know. Min sharr al-waswas al-khannas. What does khannas mean? Even if you know Arabic, I challenge you to think if you know what this means. It means the persistent, subtle, he keeps coming back and forth. He never gives up. He has promised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will let them be either disbelievers, or at worst case scenario, they're believers but they're very superficial and not serious about you. It's only lip service. That is shaitan's goal with you. You have to know your enemy if you want to fight him. You have to have a plan of attack. You have to take a serious step in wanting to change for the better. So, going back to the ayah and the hadith, which says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the realities of a people until they change what's within themselves. And then the Prophet ﷺ confirmed that the Gabriel has announced that when people changed from a lifestyle which is not so serious about growing spiritually and repenting and worship and servitude, and then they go into that seriousness, then He will bring them into His mercy in this life and in the hereafter. The companions were not seeking worldly gain, but it came to them. It came to them. Not just worldly gain as far as financial, but as far as respect and dignity and a system that people adored and were amazed at. People were embracing Islam because they saw Muslims. People are running away from Islam now because they saw Muslims. This is the reality we're in. So if we look at the bad leadership in the Muslim world, if we look at the poverty, the education level, if we look at the oppression and the bad reputation, it is all a reflection بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. It is what we have done. We have to become very serious about growing spiritually. If we do that, then the mercy and compassion is waiting for us. It's at our doorstep. And this is the month that has been all facilitated for us. As we said, the Prophet ﷺ says, "As-sawmu nisfu as-sabr." Fasting is half of patience. And patience, as our scholars have said and basically defined for us, has three different realities to it. There's patience in being willing to sacrifice your time and your effort to be a worshipper, to be in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's patience to reject your carnal, materialistic, egotistical desires and stay away from sin. And then there's patience in dealing with the divine decree, the hardships and the struggles we all face in life. Those are the three aspects of patience. Fasting combines all of them. Nobody would give up food and water all day unless they were obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have patience on obedience even though that's something that is not natural to anyone. Like right now, our brothers and sisters in humanity from the Christian movement, they gave up on the old kind of fasting. They just fast maybe from meat on Fridays. That's the fasting they're doing. Why? Because even if you go talk to some of the new age people who aren't religious, that's a good idea. It's teaching yourself a little discipline, giving up this, giving up that. It's good. So people might do something like that. Give up food all day, but you have to drink water. Right? I grew up thinking that, actually a funny story. When I was a new Muslim, and all I had was the Quran, for some people who think you don't need the Sunnah. I was a new Muslim, all I had was the Quran. I didn't even know Muslims. I read a translation of the Quran and embraced Islam by going to the library. And I was fasting for 2 years, drinking water all day. That's what I thought was fasting. In the Quran, it does not explain all the details, right? And so I was fasting like that. So this type of fast that we're making, it's in pure obedience. And it trains you to stay away from your materialistic desires and inclinations. We're told to be on extra concern about the way we talk and what we say. To control our basic need for food and water. So then lusts and greed and all of the other desires that we have be easy to keep at bay if you can control what makes you live in the first place. Then those extra things, which are additives to your life enjoyment, you can control those better. And then the last one is, obviously you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're a little bit weak. The first few days you get a little mild headache at the end of the day. Okay? So that is dealing with the divine decree of hardship that we're facing. So fasting takes care of all of those three in one. Brothers and sisters, there are a few things that I would like that we take a step back and see how we can build our community. The first aspect is the congregational prayer. I'm telling you, as I told you last week, the turning point in my life was not reading the Quran by itself. That gave me aqeedah. I knew the beliefs, I knew what was right. But lifestyle, I did not have it. Lifestyle did not come until I regularly attended a mosque, had brothers that I could meet and go visit with and eat and talk and sit around and build my faith with them. And they would catch me if like for example, as Americans we never heard any shortage of, oh, you're not supposed to be doing that or acting like that. That's Americanized and this and that. So I fixed all of these problems with our culture here through being around people who see Islam as a whole reality because they were born there. But then later after I studied, I found out maybe there's many things in the Muslim world that are common culture and practice that might not be in accordance with Islam. Is that fair enough? Inshallah. So we all have to do that to a certain extent. We all have to help each other. Al-mu'minu mir'atu akhi. The believer is a mirror of the other one. If you don't have your brother there, then it's going to be hard. And oftentimes people have their guard down just around home or at work. They're too busy focused on one thing or another. This spiritual community in the congregational prayer is very valuable. So, this shahada, When we say La ilaha, some people think Shahada, when the person embraces Islam, the new Muslim, they come up there and they say their Shahada and that is the first pillar of Islam. No. The first pillar of Islam is for every single Muslim, and we do it every single day. Anytime you did something because the Quran told you so, or the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ told you so, or you didn't do something because the Quran said don't do that, or the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said don't do that, you are practicing your Shahada. That's the practice of Shahada in your life. So when the Quran said, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةِ وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَارْكَعُوا رَاكِعِينَ, pray together, establish prayers in community. And the Prophet ﷺ made strong statements about fasting and praying and zakat and all of these things. We would do all of that because we have faith in the Quran and the Sunnah, because of the miraculous life and character of the one who brought that to us. So we're in servitude to that Shahada every single day. That is the most popular, common practiced pillar of Islam. We have to seek knowledge. We have to seek knowledge. We have this library with few hundred books that I handpicked each one, each book. And I spent probably 15 hours researching to pick the best quality books that is in the most benefit of this community here in America, for their language, for their way of looking at things, and so forth. And we have 30 members. And we have right now about 20 books and CDs that have been checked out. So we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us and blessed us to have great scholars, people that work hard and put hours and hours and hours and work into making sure we have knowledge organized, structured, and facilitated so that we can grow and become better Muslims, that we become Muslim intellectuals, properly and efficiently practicing and conveying the message of Islam. But it's not going to get there by osmosis. We don't will it there. We don't insha'Allah it there. We have to go, register, get the book, and then we read it every night. At least 15 minutes. Some people said, that's for sheikhs. Okay, a sheikh's going to 3-4 hours every day they're going to spend like this. Okay? But for the common folk, we have to be growing. It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Quran is calling out to the believers. All of us. Not, Ya ayyuhal mashayikh. It doesn't say like that. So we have to make sure that we are actualizing that. That way we can properly enjoin what is right, forbid what is wrong amongst ourselves, and be positively contributing people to the society in which we live, because we're taking our knowledge from a source of people who come from that reality, have researched it, and now combined it relevantly with the Quran and the Sunnah and the guidance therein to give us a structured format by which we can grow and practice and preach our message. In Ramadan, we're going to be having a youth program this year. I've seen too many Ramadans in my life, in the Muslim world and here, where basically the children's experience of Ramadan is basically coming for Taraweeh and running around playing in the masjid all day. And unfortunately in this mosque, they have broke many things. They have destroyed things, the door, other things, went upstairs and destroyed books in one of the school's classrooms. Unfortunately. So, you know what's interesting? Every year, I know that Jews and Christians have certain parts of the year that's structured. And I had a discussion in an interfaith dialogue. I was talking to the rabbi lady. And I said, you have your 10 high holy days of Sukkot. She says, yeah. I said, but it's a big community thing. She says, yeah, we're there all day, every day for 10 days. And I said, what do you do with your kids? She said, each one of them has an age-appropriate classroom. They have a person that registers them, and they sit down in there, and they learn about their religion and so forth, and that's it. I said, why would they be doing anything else? I said, you don't have people running around the temple Bethel, you know, yelling and screaming and all. She said, that could never happen. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس لماذا تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. We have to enjoy what is right and best in our interests before we become the best. If we're not enjoying what is the best way, then we won't be the best. We have to make that our standard, then we rise above the others. Until then, we find ourselves where we find ourselves. Some people will get upset. Imam Yahya, sometimes you seem a little bit too negative. Sometimes we have to face reality and fix ourselves. We can't just live status quo, complacent, that everything's fine with the Muslim Ummah. Ramadan is just the best way every year. Let's make things better. Let's always set a standard and say, you know what, we could be doing this better. You know what, we shouldn't be doing things this way and that way. So we will have this reality. We will have order and structure, a Ramadan educational program where 7, 8-year-olds, 9 and 10-year-olds, and 11 and up will all have an educational program during Taraweeh, because in my discussion with hundreds of them, if you try to get them to stand next to you in Taraweeh, they're not getting anything out of it, and they're bored, and it's very much alienating them from the process of Ramadan. And if not, they're outside running around doing nothing, wasting their time, getting all sugared and coffeeed and teed up, which they shouldn't be at 10 o'clock at night, right? So we're going to have a structure for that. And there will be an educational program which we have defined and laid out. They will understand the whole reality of prayer. They will understand the Arabic and the English of the famous surahs and the meaning of each word. They will understand certain Quranic passages that define belief and practice very well. They will have stories of the Prophet ﷺ and his miracles and his victories and greatness that he represented. And then they will have some activities and games and so forth in between that, inshaAllah. Now, as an imam and as a board, we voted and we talked with the Ramadan committee, and we made actually a policy that will be from now on, inshaAllah, until Yawm al-Qiyamah. There will be no smoking here at Mass ever again. Why? I'm sure some of you have heard of Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Many people see him as a liberal sheikh. Many people will give him a hard time. So listen to what is considered by many the most liberal sheikh in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah has said about smoking. He said, there would be no scholar on planet Earth that has reached the level to make ijtihad who would dare say that smoking is anything other than haram. And he said, why? He said, because in the old fiqh books written 1,000 years ago, they did not know the scientific evidence of the harm and the statistics of the death and harm and destruction that smoking caused. Back then, they didn't know that. So they just saw some people get weak and they cough and they get tired real easily when they're jogging. So it seems like it's not the best thing for your health, so we'll just say makruh. But now the science has established the reality of harm in dealing with it. And so the Prophet ﷺ says, La darar wa la dirar. There is no harming oneself or others. Okay? 6 million people a year across the world are dying because of smoking. 6 million. Do you know that is more than alcohol, all the drugs, murder, car accidents and everything combined? This is a whole lot of people, more than AIDS and all that stuff. All the worst things you thought was worse, smoking is a bigger destructive force than all of that. You're 20 times more likely to get lung cancer when you smoke than if you don't. 13 times more likely to die of chronic bronchitis and emphysema, which is like being drowned while you're awake out of water, is the feeling of that death. Slowly drowned. Your breath goes away and you're just struggling and striving to have it unless they put you on a machine. 4 times more likely to die of heart disease or a stroke if you smoke. Of course, smoking is haram. It has carbon monoxide, it has ammonia, it has arsenic, it has formaldehyde in it. Now if you saw some people that had some arsenic or formaldehyde, would you go around them? You would not go around them. You would not want to be in their presence. If you saw them taking little drips and putting it in their mouth, you would think some strange ideas about them. We have to restructure our way of, because we've been culturally inculcated to think it's not that big of a deal. I saw everybody doing it growing up. Well, many of those people are dead, and many others are going to die from this. Smoking is for sure haram. The Prophet ﷺ says, one of the reasons why we won't have it here, even if you, for some reason, are not going to quit, the Prophet ﷺ says, مَنْ أَكَلَ ثُومًا أَوْ بَصَلًا فَلَا يَقْرِبَنَّ مَسَاجِدَنَا فَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَتَأَذَّى مِمَّا يَتَأَذَّى مِنْهُ بَنُو آدَمَ. Do not come close to the masjid if you have eaten some garlic or onions, because the angels are annoyed and bothered by that which annoys and bothers people. And many of the ulama historically used to see smoke as najis. Some of them did. I don't believe in that opinion, but I'm just giving you some perspective. That is in the fiqh books in the history of Islam. And it goes back to some Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Just to let you know that when you smoke, people who walk by you, and then when you get close to people, it bothers them. It doesn't smell good. It's annoying. It's something that a normal person who's not smoking would not like. These are the facts. This is the reality. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. It's wasting. Just to burn up money. Burn it up. Or I'll give you money for this and then I will burn it up. What's the difference? It's burning money for no benefit. It's actually doing that and harming on top of that. There's no question in any scholar's mind on planet Earth, unless they're in a country that produces and makes a lot of money from tobacco, and they need to be tied in with the government and make a fatwa that supports that income. Other than that, if they have any decent amount of knowledge in Islam, they know that there's about 10 different proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah that make smoking haram. The Quran and the Sunnah did not make heroin haram, did it? Are we going to say heroin's halal? Because there's not a specific statement in the Quran and Sunnah making heroin haram. Whereas smoking is killing worldwide 100 times more people than heroin. And we're all in agreement that that's haram, right? The argument falls wayside. There's no justification. So now where are we at? Some of our scholars, they say, مِمَّنْ ابْتَلَّاهُ اللَّهُ بِالتَّدْخِينِ لَا وَابْتُلِيَ نَفْسُهُ بِهِ. I can tell you, I know many non-Muslims with no aqidah, no belief system, no tawakkul ala Allah. They have none of this, and they have quit smoking. My dad is one of them. He smoked for 30 years, and he quit. My dad doesn't believe, he's a very liberal, secular guy. He's a pick and choose from religion what I like and practice when and I so choose. But he wanted to do that because his doctor said you're probably going to die and it's going to cause your life to get shorter. So he said, you know what, for myself, I'm going to struggle against this. There are many people that I know from Jahiliyyah that quit smoking. Do not sell yourself short. You're a person of faith. You're a person of reliance on the Creator of the universe. You can do this. You can take Ramadan. If you're going to leave it for 18 hours, just make it 30 days. The scholars of psychology have said that when somebody quits something for 28 days, that's why the program for drug rehab is 28 days, then it leaves their body physically and psychologically as a addiction. The only thing now is dhikrayat al-ayyam al-madiyah. After that, oh, I just went back to the way it was when I smoked. I don't understand that thinking. The day I became Muslim and I came into, once I came into the masjid, started praying and all of this, and they had this policy in Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way, back in 2000, about 2000, whenever I went there. So we're a little bit behind some of the other communities. So we need to realize, now some people said, by the way, we have to clarify this. Some people said, but I just smoked the argila, the hookah. Look it up. I looked it up, I researched, trying to make benefit of the doubt. They said it goes through the water, man, it's cleaned out, it's smoke. The one that come up is smoke. And it has arsenic, formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, and ammonia in it. Same stuff. It's all haram. And all the scholarly bodies, all the great scholars of the world, except in places where tobacco makes a lot of money, okay, as a product of national, gross national product. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to change in this month. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, I love you all in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It takes sometimes real talk to awaken the soul. If we've been hearing the same old, then maybe we'd just get caught in the status quo. I believe that everyone in here has a precedence upon everybody else in the world that did not see the beauty of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Know the value of that, brothers and sisters. Please don't take it for granted. Please don't take it for granted. The value of that is Allahu waliyul mu'mineen. He is our supporter. He will take care of us. He will support us in our most difficult times. When we're trying to make a living in life and raise children, the companions were doing all of that. And yet at the same time, they were very much tied into the mosque. Anytime an ayah was revealed, they immediately dropped something that was prohibited. Right then, when the ayah was revealed about alcohol, some people were in their house like this. And then they heard the ayah and they dropped it. And then they went and they took the barrel of wine and they went out and poured it in the street in the front. That was the iman. Sami'na wa ata'na. The last two ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, inshallah our youth will all understand them in very great detail through Ramadan, are very, very powerful meanings there. And understanding our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what will enable us to receive His mercy and support and grow in dignity and greatness in this life and in the hereafter for eternity. But we have to make a change in our lifestyles, in our knowledge, in our practices, in our character, in our manners, with our families, with our co-workers, with the masajid. We have to change. We have to be strong to fight off the shaitan. He is gonna fight us until our death, and he has promised it. So we have to get real, because at the end of the day we're here on the doorstep of Ramadan. I'm encouraging us all to become better Muslims through Ramadan, to take a serious intention and then have an action plan, and sit down with our families and discuss that action plan, how we can help each other. Ta'awanu ala al-birri wa taqwa, and interact with each other on righteousness and piety. Let's not fail the test of life. We're all in a test here. We have to study hard for that test, reading Quran and Sunnah and the knowledge that our scholars put together for us therefrom to inspire us. And then we have to work hard. We have to work hard to bring about change and growth and progression in our community. Ramadan is a big blessing for self-accountability. Where am I at spiritually? Where am I at in my knowledge? Where am I at in my practice? Where am I in my ability to talk to my neighbor about Islam and help them to see the beauty of it, rather than maybe tripping over my words and maybe saying something that I regret or I'm not sure about? These are very important realities that we have to fix. So the Holy Quran says, وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّ الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا. That's what we're talking about. Patience with life. So he says, we will reward the people according to their patience and according to how much, to the best of their ability. بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. They worked according to that patience. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove from our hearts any darkness, any weakness, any shortcoming, to open our hearts to the beauty of the light of faith and the guidance that came in the Quran and the Sunnah, to the meanings and understanding of Islam, that it may impact us to become better people, that we may change from any ways that were detrimental to our soul's eternal reality to a way that will bring our soul to the straight path on its way to bliss in the presence of its Creator. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all of the Muslims around the world and support them in their troubles and trials and difficulties, and raise up leaders amongst our youth generation who will balance between the priority of spirituality and dealing with the worldly affairs according to the Quran and the Sunnah. Wa aqimus salat.